Flopsy and the Easter Bunny Olympics, Part 24 of 40. The first difference I noticed for our second steeplechase race was how pleasant it was not having to queue with Woundwort. Just as Bustle had dropped down a few positions in this round's burdened endurance race, so had Woundwort. But unlike Bustle, Woundwort had no one to blame but himself for his slower time, a fact that I very much doubted prevented him from blaming any nearby bunny. I soon encountered the second difference in our race as I reached the first obstacle in our 100-meter steeplechase. The 8 obstacles in the 100-meter were presented in the same over, under, around, and through, blue, yellow, black, red pattern as they'd been in the 400-meter. But from the first over, blue, towering expanse encountered, I realized that what the shortest race lacked in length, it made up with difficulty. I was pleased to find that being the penultimate rabbit out on the track didn't have the queuing disadvantage in our single lap race that it had in the 4-lap 400-meter. Seeing that there was no queue at our first obstacle, I took off in a sprint as I attempted to pass Pax prior to moving on to obstacle number 2. My optimism fell dramatically when I reached the first over obstacle. The first tower encountered in the single lap 100-meter steeplechase combined the great height of the 400-meter second tower, and I managed to reach the base of the tower right on Pax's heels. Pax's was the more sure-pawed climb to the top, and by the time I reached the summit, he'd already begun his descent. Climbing, I've been very pleased to find regular horizontal paw holds as I rushed to go over the top and then catch Pax on the way down. I forced myself to scramble over the top without pausing and began making my descent. Descending, I was again pleased to find that just as it had on the track used for the 400-meter, that the leeward side of the tower retained a predictable pattern of paw holds. Greatly relieved at finding frequent, evenly spaced paw holds, I forced myself to scramble downwards at a pace far exceeding my mental comfort zone. I descended perhaps a quarter of the way down when the predictable paw hold I'd expected to find wasn't where I thought it would be. I gasped as I felt myself slip, but recovering immediately, I continued my downward journey with a bit more caution and a bit less speed. Halfway down, I was again surprised when the paw hold became even less predictable, but when I encountered this a third time, I was ready. I was ready both for the incongruity and ready to size up the situation and decide whether I should continue my paw-over-paw scramble or take a chance and drop from the 1/4 total height mark. Looking down, I surveyed the distance, made sure no bunny stood beneath me, inhaled deeply, and let go, my brain emitting a squeal of terror that I forbid my voice to utter. My landing was jarring but not damaging, and as I again sprinted for the second obstacle, I heard Pax emit a frightened grunt as he landed a mere meter away and less than 2 seconds behind. Though there was no visible queue at the opening of the yellow under obstacle, I again chose the far right tunnel in the belief that most bunnies would enter the 2 left ones. Just as the 100-meter blue tower had been decidedly more challenging than either of the 400-meter had been, so too was the twisting tight quarters encountered beneath the yellow under obstacle. Racing forward, I caught a larger bunny who was experiencing difficulty squeezing through the obstacle. But fortunately for me, we were both soon out in the clear and I was able to race my fastest to the third set of obstacles. I was unsurprised to find the around and through obstacles likewise far more difficult on this course than they'd been on the 400-meter. I continued to stay to the right when choosing a path under or around an obstacle and scrambled through the third path as I again stayed right for the first red-colored through one. Queuing had presented barely a problem for the first 5 obstacles, but as I reached the second under, there were 3 bunnies in front of me. I used the opportunity to catch my breath and size up the field. Looking behind me, I caught sight of Pax coming on strong and I hollered at him, "Come on, Pax, nearly done," as encouragement before turning forward and glancing over the obstacle before darting to the right to go under. The sight that presented itself to me was both repellent and of unmatched desire as I saw Woundwort scramble out of the obstacle I was scrambling into. My pulse quickened with excitement and my adrenaline flowed. I reminded myself of my prayer for forgiveness and my responsibility to treat my castigator as I would be treated, a thought I kept uppermost in my mind as I steeled myself to catch, pass, and beat Woundwort to the finish line. Again, I found myself slowed by rabbits within the tight yellow confines, but once free, I sprinted with all my might. Through my pain, I thought of the irony that Woundwort's in my next obstacle was black, that we were supposed to go around our next obstacle before encountering our final red through one. Racing through my pain, my vision again began to go black at the edges, and I said a quick, silent prayer of thanks for the obstacle forcing me to slow. By the time I had gone around the obstacle, I'd managed to bring enough oxygen back to my brain that my vision was clear, and I again sprinted forward, intent on reaching our final through obstacle before Woundwort exited. Despite my heaving chest and slamming heart, I had a moment of appreciation for whatever sadistic bunny had created this red through obstacle as I struggled through it. I emerged on the far right side of the hedge as Woundwort emerged from the left. I was tired, but I banked on Woundwort being more so as I gathered my last gram of energy and raced to the finish line.